following is another feature presentation of the Century Telesports Network. From the Pocono International Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, it's the Schaefer 500 at Pocono. Brought to you by Palmolive Rapid Shave, Menthol Mint, Juicy Lime, and Morning Fresh Regular. By Muriel Cigars in a size and shape for every smoker. By Sunoco and your nearby Sunoco dealer, where you get 260 action, the action of the world's highest octane gas. And by Schaefer, the one beer to have when you're having more than one. This is the second leg in the Triple Crown of 500-mile races of the 1971 United States Auto Club Championship Trail, featuring the nation's top drivers and cars competing for one of racing's largest purses, close to $400,000 in cash prizes. Good afternoon, everyone, from the scenic Pocono Mountains here in eastern Pennsylvania. This is Jim Carvelis inviting you to the very first Schaefer Pocono 500-mile race. We have a beautiful day here in eastern Pennsylvania. Temperature close to 80, very little humidity, not a cloud in the sky, and we have 33 of the best machines and best drivers in the world here to inaugurate this great track. A great day in the state of Pennsylvania. And today we're expecting over 150,000 people to watch this inaugural race. That'll be more fans than at any other sporting event in the history of Pennsylvania sports. Now, it's only fitting that the pole position belongs to a native Pennsylvania. Mark Donohue from Media, Pennsylvania, qualified at speeds at over 172 miles per hour. Joining him in the first row, Al and Bobby Unser. And of course, Al Unser has won 5 of the last 6 USAC races. He is way out ahead in the point standings. But the sentimental favorite, another native Pennsylvania. Only 58 miles from this track is where Mario Andretti was born and raised. So a lot of people here will be pulling for Mr. Andretti this afternoon. This is a great day in the history of Pennsylvania sports, and I want to introduce you now to our sports people, the Century Telesports Network team. Working the pit area will be Dwayne Dow. And Dwayne, this is truly a very great day.
Well, yes, it is, Jim, and it's a different feeling than we had our last telecast in Milwaukee, which Al Unser won, of course, after winning the Indianapolis 500. This is the birth today, ladies and gentlemen, of the Triple Crown of auto racing, as Indianapolis, of course, goes way, way back to the year 1911, and of course, it's Ontario, California, the second leg, and now this beautiful new track at Pocono Manor in Pennsylvania. And you know, there's a feeling of newness, I think, which you get as you walk around here. 6 weeks ago, the garage area wasn't even completed. The racetrack was here, but that was about all. And now, miraculously, they have put everything together, and they're ready to go. The drivers have never driven on a tri-oval track like this, and we'll talk about that a little later on. And it's a brand new thing for many of the spectators here today, many of whom have never before seen the Indianapolis cars run live before their very eyes. I think I can say with quite a bit of finality, Jim, there are a lot of people here today who maybe never have even seen an auto race before.
Hi, Dwayne. We'll be looking forward to your reports, and also reporting from the pit area, a veteran automobile racing reporter, Jim Wilson. And Jim, with the newness of the situation and everything, there must be some problems.
Well, probably the only problem that really affects the drivers and crews today is a rough racetrack. Naturally, it's a new track. The freeze and thaw over the winter caused it to become bumpy, and there were a lot of patches on it because of that. The drivers say that they may not be able to run as close to each other as they normally do on a smooth track. The cars tend to bounce around like the old roadster days and sometimes move 2 or 3 feet sideways as they go through those turns. In fact, Al Unser says that we might have to be downright courteous to each other until we find out just exactly where we can run and how. Now, it only really bothers them in the turns. On the straightaways, it's not much of a problem. The other problem, of course, that faces them then is maybe suspension failure or a failure in the car because of the roughness. However, Frank Delroy, the USAC Tech Chief, told us that everybody anticipated this before they came and beefed up their cars and have them in pretty good shape. If it was going to be very hot today, there was a chance of those patches coming apart, and then it would be a bad situation. However, today it's very, relatively cool for the racetrack, and I don't think we'll have any problems at all with the track coming apart, and that'll be one thing the drivers won't have to worry about, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Thank you very much. The gentleman who'll be calling the race, the president of USAC, Charlie Brockman. And Charlie, a few years from now, you could be telling your grandchildren that you called the very first race from Pocono International Speedway.
Right, Jim, and it's a great day and a start of something really big in automobile racing. For the first time, a 500-mile race in this area of the country, and it's a wonderful day for USAC. The drivers have a real challenge facing them because this is a different track. It's not like the other 2.5-mile speedways, and as you can see, it's in the form of a triangle with 3 turns, 3 different turns, different banking, different radius, and some of the drivers say there's more than 3 because they have to turn the wheel so many times because of the roughness that Jim talked about. But one of the great attributes of a race driver is his ability to adjust to different conditions, and they've done a magnificent job here in getting the speeds that they have, and I know they're going to do a good job in the race today.
Charlie, what about the mandatory 4 pit stops?
It's going to change the strategy a little bit. They'll only have to go about 100 miles between pit stops, and so as a consequence, fuel consumption will not be a problem. However, the big problem for them is to try to catch a yellow light with their pit stops, because a stop under the yellow light when the cars are running slowly doesn't cost you as much in distance as it does under the green. And you have to kind of guess with that because you don't know if there are going to be any yellow lights, and if so, when they're going to come. So as far as that strategy is concerned, we'll just have to watch and see how the race goes before we know exactly what's going to happen there.
All right, thank you, Charlie, and we'll be back with the very first Pocono 500 in just a moment.
We're just moments away from the traditional command, gentlemen, start your engines, as we're winding up the pre-race pageantry. And there's Linda Vaughn, who has graced many a racetrack with her beauteous appearance prior to the start of the race. Well, it's a tremendous field of cars, Jimmy, and I know that these drivers are quite nervous now as they're approaching that starting time. Just as soon as the engines are started and they're rolling, they'll feel a lot better about it. Here's the starting lineup. This is the way they qualified last weekend, with Mark Donohue, the fastest qualifier, at 172.393 miles per hour. The slowest qualifier was Jim Hurtubise at 158.245, and the average for the field was 165.499 miles per hour. Quite remarkable for a brand new racetrack.
Right, Charlie. You know, Mario Andretti, who's from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, just 58 miles from here, said a couple of weeks ago when he was out here that he thought that they'd have some blistering speeds here. Do you agree with that, Charlie?
Yes, I think that we've already seen them. And now we're just about ready for the traditional command. That is Tony Holman, president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, who has been asked to give that command for this inaugural race. So let's pick up his words. When the mechanics wonder whether they've done all their work. As they're starting the engines, it looks like the front row is started and ready to go. They're working on Al Unser's car. There is Joe Leonard in the Samsonite Special number 15. The hands are raised in the air to indicate that the engines are running. Just as soon as most of the engines are running, the pace car will move away. Sam Hanks, the 1957 winner of the Indianapolis 500, will be driving the pace car. And now the cars are rolling. Johnny Rutherford in car number 18, the Patrick Petroleum Special, underway. Art Pollard's moving away in car number 8, the Gilmore Racing Team Special. There's Roger McCluskey in car number 6, the Sprite Special. It looks like most of the field moving. There's Jim Hurtubise in the only front-engine car in the race. This is something of an antique, and they're having trouble with Bill Puterbaugh's car, the G.C. Murphy Special number 80. He did not get started. All 33 cars started except for Puterbaugh. This first turn is the highest bank turn on the racetrack. Bank is some 15 degrees at the end of that long straightaway, which is about 400 feet longer than the longest straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They should be achieving speeds well over 200 miles an hour down at the end of that straightaway. Now Peterball is moving, and he's underway. All 33 cars are running. As they go down the backstretch, Mark Donohue on the pole position probably should be considered the favorite today. He was the favorite in Indianapolis, had bad luck, but that certainly should change with the tremendous organization that they have in that Penske outfit. Prior to the race, we talked to Mark Donohue and asked him about the organization. We're going to get his answer in just a moment as to whether all that organization bothered him as a race driver. But now the front row is pretty well lined up. It's Mark Donohue on the pole in the Sunoco Special McLaren. In the Olsenite Eagle, it's Bobby Unser and Al Unser in the Johnny Lightning Special #1. That's the front row, and they'll be racing into that first turn to try to get that first spot on the first lap. Mark Donohue moving up into position.
Well, what happens is by the time we get to the point in which we must start the race, I can look back and see the months and the long nights and the all-nighters and the tremendous effort that the whole team ends up putting into a project to bring it up to the point to which Roger really expects, as close as to perfection as we can possibly get. And the pressure on me to finish the job correctly without making a mistake becomes very, very high, and it's difficult for me to make the right judgment sometimes as to just how far and how hard to push the car. If you don't go fast enough, of course you don't do well in the race. If you go too fast, you perhaps wreck the car, and it's a very fine line between the two. And when the race starts, I know that there's a lot of people that have put a lot of time in on our program to get that car to the point which it is, beautiful and well-performing, that expect me to do my job properly because they've done theirs, and it's very difficult to make the right decisions.
We'll return to the racing action in just a moment.
Back at the Pocono Speedway in the beautiful Pocono Mountains, the pace laps are underway for this inaugural Schaefer 500 at Pocono. Sam Hanks driving the pace car, leading the first row, Mark Donohue of Media, Pennsylvania, Bobby Unser of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Al Unser of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it should be very, very interesting as they jockey for position to try to take over that lead in the first turn. There's always a lot of conversation about who's going to lead into the first turn. Actually, it doesn't make that much difference as to the final outcome of a 500-mile race, but there's a lot of pride in these race drivers, and they like to be the man to lead the first lap. Certainly is a beautiful sight here at Pocono. You'll notice that the drivers move around quite a little bit as they're scuffing in their tires, warming up their tires. In the second row, behind that very fast front row, is Joe Leonard of San Jose, California, in the Samsonite Special. Mario Andretti in car number 5 from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, in the Oil Treatment Special. And Gordon Johncock of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, in car number 7, the Volstick Special. Followed in the third row by Peter Revson of New York in the McLaren number 86. A.J. Foyt Jr. of Houston Special. Followed in the third row by Peter Revson of New York in the McLaren number 86. A.J. Foyt Jr. of Houston, Texas, in the ITT Thompson Special, and George Snyder of Bakersfield, California, in car number 4, the G.C. Murphy Special. Well, the field is just about lined up. You can see Peterball coming up from the rear. He was late getting away, and he'll be moving into his assigned position, which is back in the field outside in the 9th row. It's a beautiful lineup, Jimmy, as they go down to complete the first pace lap.
Charlie, we're 2,000 feet above sea level here. Is that going to affect the automobiles at all?
Shouldn't affect them too much. If they were at a higher altitude, like in Denver, Colorado, it would affect the performance of the machines, but 2,000 feet shouldn't affect the performance at all.
Charlie, we heard Jim Wilson saying before the Cheryl, that the weather here is going to help the new surface of the track. In other words, it's not going to hinder it at all. But what about the drivers? I'm sure that this temperature, which is close to 80 and very little humidity, will really help the drivers.
Almost an ideal day for racing. They talked about how tough this race was going to be for the drivers, but the temperature will certainly help them, and we don't actually look for any relief drivers this afternoon, although they'll be standing by. Nice crowd on hand here, anxiously awaiting for the waving of the green flag to signify that the race is underway.
Charlie, another beautiful thing about this is that most of those people, or some of those people that you just saw, own stock in this track. It's kind of a local thing here.
Over 500 stockholders in the Pocono International Speedway. Well, right now, the drivers are all set. There are 3 pace laps here at Pocono. This is a departure from the procedure at Indianapolis and at Ontario, but it was just felt that an additional pace lap would give those engines a little more time to warm up and be in racing trim when they come down for the green flag. Another one of the favorites of the crowd here, and as the crowd anywhere, is Jim Hurtubise of North Tonawanda, New York. He qualified at the very last moment on the final day of qualifications, made the 33rd starting position, and he is driving car number 56, which is a Mallard. He built it himself, a front-engine car, and the only front-engine car in the race. Jimmy Clark and Jack Brabham from the Grand Prix circuit started the trend toward rear-engine cars back in the late 50s, and we've had practically nothing but rear-engine cars since, but Jim Hurtubise clings to the idea that you can get it done with a front-engine car. Very colorful driver, and we'll be watching to see how he does in the early laps of this race.
From time to time, you'll be seeing a helicopter, a couple of helicopters circling the track, and they're there for a specific reason. That's just to watch the race, Charlie. They're there for safety reasons, and this is a very safe track. We'll talk about that later, but in case someone does get hurt, they'll be able to get that helicopter in quickly and get them very quick medical aid.
Yes, another one of the safety features. Well, there you see an almost perfect alignment as they go into turn 1. Continuing on with some of the other starters in the 4th row, Cale Yarborough of Timmonsville, South Carolina, in car number 21, the Gene White Firestone Special. Dick Simon of Salt Lake City, Utah, in car number 10, the Travelodge Sleeper. And Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas. In the 5th row, it's Gary Bettenhouse of Tinley Park, Illinois, in car number 16, the Thermo King Special. Lloyd Ruby of Wichita Falls, Texas, in the Utah Stars Special, number 12. And Donnie Allison of Hueytown, Alabama, in car number 84, the Purelator Special. And so after about 15 years of dreaming of this Pocono International Speedway, the green flag is ready for the inaugural event. The pace car moves off the track into the pit area. The cars are coming down to the starting line. And the green flag is out and the race is on. Look at those cars maneuver down that front straightaway, and it's Mark Donohue taking the lead in the first turn, followed by Bobby Unser, Al Unser, Joe Leonard, Gordon Johncock, Peter Revson. And moving way out in his Sunoco Special is Mark Donohue. He did almost the same thing at Indianapolis and led throughout the early part of the race at Indianapolis before gear trouble put him out. But look at that battle for second place. Bobby Unser, Al Unser, and Joe Leonard as they move down the back straightaway through turn 2. That's the rough one. Coming now across the short straightaway and into turn 3. Bobby Unser in second place. Moving out onto the straightaway, and look at the lead that Mark Donohue has. Inside of the track to try to pass. Al Unser made a move on Bobby, but didn't have enough straightaway speed. Then they have to get back into single file. Look at that racing action right there. Well, that was close, Jimmy. Now down the back straightaway, we're watching Bobby Unser in second place with about a 200-foot lead over Al Unser, his brother, but Al closes it up in turn 2. With Joe Leonard running in 4th position. It's Gordon Johncock is 5th. Peter Revson is 6th. A.J. Foyt is 7th. Cale Yarborough is 8th. George Snyder is 9th. Dick Simon is 10th. And Mario Andretti is in 11th position. Bobby obviously did not get off that third turn properly, and so he decided to stay right behind him. As Joe Leonard moved down a little bit to try to force Al Unser, but did not have enough straightaway speed. There was a car a little bit sideways. John Mailer bounced a little bit as he went across one of those bumps. You'll notice the pounding these cars are taking as they go into turn one. It's a little wavy right in there. And look at the lead that Mark Donohue has at this moment. But the race is for second place. They're reaching speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour at the end of that long straightaway. Now we'll be watching to see if Al Unser makes a move on Bobby. He's moved down to the inside, pulling up alongside into the first turn. Let's see, has he got it? Can't quite make it. Bobby Unser holds on to second place. You wouldn't believe that those were brothers racing each other. Moving down the back stretch now. Mark Donohue well out in front. Al had to fall back in behind Bobby, and he lost a little ground in the process, but now he's picked it up again. Joe Leonard is pressing his teammate. Coming through turn three. Mark Donohue running very comfortably. Out in first place. Gordon Johncock and Peter Reston are having quite a battle also for 56. And we'll return to racing action in just a moment.
Well, actually, we found out this year at the Speedway, when we arrived, we thought we had 3 or 4 miles an hour that we hadn't really showed yet. But with the invasion of the McLaren cars and having the Penske and the McLaren team after us, they really made us work hard. They had us beat by 4 miles an hour, or maybe 5 as far as qualifying goes. So we decided right then and there that we're not going to be winning races if we don't get in and work things out. So you'll really notice our car has completely changed. The configuration doesn't look the same as the one we used at Indy, except it's the same car, but the changes are on the completely new design on the nose, and the oil coolers and air scoops are all down low for a better center of gravity. And then we have a nice big wing on the back, which really gives us the downforce that we're looking for without putting any restriction on the straightaway speed. That's the main thing, is to get all the downforce with the less restriction, get all your leading edges so they're not holding you back, and then you've got something.
We've had a few laps under the yellow flag, and the green flag is back out once again. Causing the yellow flag was a blown engine in Cale Yarborough's Gene White Special, number 21. A tough break for Cale. He had been running in 7th place. But he's now out of the race. There was some oil dropped on the track, and this could make it very difficult for the drivers. Also out of the race is George Snyder in the G.C. Murphy Special, number 4. He came in after 10 laps, and we'll be going down to the pit shortly to find out just what happened to George Snyder's car. But right now there are 31 cars running, 2 cars out of the race. Number 21, Cale Yarborough, and number 4, George Snyder. Meanwhile, Mark Donohue continues to move out on that green flag. Of course, they are closing up today. They're using the pace car under the yellow flag today for the first time in USAC 500-mile racing. And that means that every time a yellow flag comes out, the rest of the pack will be able to close up on the leader. So it's going to mean that Donohue is going to have to show us that speed all day long if he's going to maintain that lead. Mark Donohue continues to be first. Al Unser in car number 1 is second. Bobby Unser in car number 2. The Olsenite Eagle is in 3rd place. And Joe Leonard in car number 15, the Samsonite Special, is in 4th, followed by Gordon Johncock and A.J. Foyt. Gordon Johncock is driving an Offie, the Volstead Special, and Foyt is driving a Ford, the ITT Thompson Special. We And now let's go down to the pits and Jim Wilson, the chief mechanic, and AJ said they dropped the valve on one cylinder, and that's what put George in car 4 out of the race. We're talking to Bill Simpson also in car 28. His crew is trying to change a manifold and that cracked. They hope to borrow one from Gurney. If they can't borrow one from Gurney, they're going to try to weld theirs back up and get back in the race. That's a low-budget operation. They need a big payday, and they want to get back out there and finish as high as they can. Now back to the race. Back out on the racetrack, there's a little gap now in the pack. Continuing with the standings, Gordon Johncock is in 5th place. A.J. Foyt is in 6th. Peter Revson is 7th. Mario Andretti is 8th. Donnie Allison, the Dakar race from down south, is in 9th place. And Gary Bettenhausen is in 10th place in car number 16. That was Bill Puterbaugh, who just went by in car number 80. He is bringing up the rear of the cars running. There are 30 cars out on the track right now. 2 cars are definitely out of the race. Bill Simpson has been in and out of the pits a couple of times. There's Gordon Johncock, who's been doing a terrific job today. He's in 5th place. But he has fallen back somewhat from Joe Leonard in 4th. Mark Donohue has a definite advantage, but still Al Unser is hanging in there. That's just exactly the strategy he employed at Indianapolis. And of course, Donohue's number 66 quit on the 67th lap. And Al Unser went on to win his second Indianapolis 500 in a row. This track is very interesting and difficult for these drivers, with the turns all being different and, in addition, being only 3 turns. There you see the 2 cars out of the race, Cale Yarborough from Timmonsville, South Carolina, and George Snyder from Bakersfield, California. There will be 4 mandatory pit stops today, so we can look for the first pit stop to come about the 40th lap. That would break it up into 5 equal segments. With pit stops in between, they possibly will not have to carry quite as much fuel today.
Charlie, Al Unser was quoted the other day as saying that he thought that the pit stops in this race would be 70% of the race.
Well, he was very complimentary of his crew. And we'll be back in more racing action in just a moment. Back at the Pocono International Speedway, the leader of the first annual Schaefer 500 is Mark Donohue with Al Unser in car number 1, running in 2nd position. And there you see the difference. Donohue, Al Unser, Bobby Unser, and Joe Leonard in that combination of 4 cars right from the beginning. Tremendous crowd on hand today at the Pocono Speedway, and they've been enjoying quite a speed duel between the Unser brothers for 2nd place. Mark Donohue has had a definite advantage out in 1st. This straightaway is very wide, and that allows the drivers a lot of room coming down. Look at the move. John Mailer down the inside of that pack of cars. Notice how those cars are bouncing as they head into that first turn. Bob Harkey, car number 19, bringing up the rear of that pack of cars. It's nearing the time when we're going to get our first pit stop. About 10 more laps, we expect the cars to come in, and then you're really going to see a lot of action. We were talking a little while ago about the fact that they might not carry quite as much fuel, but they'll still fill them up pretty much because they want to have as much flexibility as possible. If they can run to a yellow light, if there would happen to be one, they would like to do that because they lose less time in the pits or less distance to their competitors if the yellow light is on, because the cars are, of course, slowed down. So that's the strategy they'll be employing. We've had some very good racing by Bill Vukovich and Gary Bettenhausen, along with Johnny Allison. Now here we see Mark Donohue moving up to lap Bill Puterbaugh. Donohue is beginning to lap the slower cars. They're still working on Bill Simpson's car. Now let's go down to the pits and a report from Jim Wilson.
For us, and then as we went down the front stretch and went into the first
things look better on the championship trail the rest of the way. Cale, thank you very much. Now back to the race.
Thank you, Cale. That was Cale Yarborough, of course, who was one of the first two cars out of the race in a tough break for the Simmonsville, South Carolina driver. He was running very, very well. He was in 7th position, battling for 6th, and looked like he really might come into his own. We're watching Al Unser now, who is running in 2nd position. And we just received a report that Al Unser has been black flagged. What a development this is. Al Unser, the winner of the Indianapolis 500, has been black flagged, possibly for dropping oil. He has gotten a signal. Now we'll be watching to see what his pit crew does when he comes in. This was certainly a surprise. Al was running in 2nd position.
We did get a report, Charlie. You're right. He was dropping oil, and now we'll be very attentive to see what this crew is going to be doing.
Well, you can see some of the crew members down looking for oil at the rear of the machine. They're refueling just in case, but the technical man is saying, no, you can't send him out. The crew was refueling, and they wanted him to go back out. But that was Frank Delroy, the chairman of the technical. And here's Donohue into the pit. That was a very quick pit stop by Mark Donohue, although a bit surprising that he came in that early. Meanwhile, they're still looking over Al Unser's car, and we just had a report from down in the pit that Donohue did not intend to stop that early, but that he was confused and he came in on Al Unser's black flag. Now that could have quite a bearing on the outcome of this race. Instead of dropping him out of the top 10, he was leading comfortably, and you can see that they're wiping up the oil off the pavement. It is obvious that Al has been spilling a lot of oil out of the rear of that car. It is very possible that Al Unser's racing for the day is over. What a tough break for Al, who had won 5 out of 6 USAC races this year so far. Talking to Frank Delroy, and he's shaking his head. Al is getting out of the car. And we'll return for more racing action in just a moment. And there are the standings at 40 laps, with Joe Leonard taking the lead, following Al Unser and Mark Donohue both coming into the pits. Bobby Unser is 2nd, A.J. Foyt, Gary Bettenhausen, Art Pollard, Donnie Allison, Peter Revson, Dick Simon, Mario Andretti, and Wally Dallenbach has moved into the top 10. 3 more cars are out of the race. Al Unser's car is definitely out after 32 laps. Jim Hurtubise has dropped out of the race after 35 laps in car number 56. And Bob Harkey in car number 19, the MVS Special, is out after 39 laps. And he went out with an oil leak, so I imagine this racetrack is getting a little on the slippery side. But the pit stops will be coming up very shortly. That is the regularly scheduled pit stops. And here's Mario Andretti into the pit. Mario was running in 9th position. Remember, 4 mandatory pit stops today, and that crew of the STP Oil Treatment Special goes to work. They're only permitted a limited number of people over the wall, and so to conserve on people, you notice that they handed Mario his drink of water on a long stick. That man wasn't over the wall. Jim McGee looked a little concerned as he looked up, refueling.
Charlie, definitely not a good pit stop for Andretti. They're taking a lot of time.
Here's a car that overran the pits and is being pushed back. Meanwhile, Joe Leonard was into the pits and he pulled the fuel hose off. Joe Leonard has pulled the fuel hose off. He got away before his crew was ready. And he's back out on the track. He was the leader. He came in just ahead of Andretti. And he got away too quickly. You could probably notice a piece of that hose attached to the car.
I'll tell you, Leonard gives you that impression. He's such a courageous driver. You get the impression he goes into the pits and he doesn't want to stop. He wants to be refueled as he goes by, and that's almost what happened. And it'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen here.
Notice that wire, that's the wire that gives the fuel hose strength, is being coiled up. He pulled that long wire down the pit area. And the leaders, after 46 laps, Leonard is in second position now, with Bobby Unser taking over the lead as a result of Leonard's pit stop. Gordon Johncock third, Andretti fourth, and A.J. Foyt in fifth position. Leonard has to come back in to have that hose taken off. There he is. Very quickly, that piece of hose was disconnected. He's very fortunate that he didn't pull the side out of that race car. That happened to Lloyd Ruby in Indianapolis, you'll recall, and it cost Lloyd the Indianapolis 500. Now they're running under the yellow light.
Let's go down behind Joe Leonard's pit, and when they started to refuel, they tapped him before they had the hose disconnected, and when he took out of there, he really stripped this hose, as you can see. That is all that's left of the wire reinforcing, and he had to be black flagged, of course, and came back in. The nozzle was still attached to the car. They had to disconnect the nozzle, and he's back out there. And Al Unser, we talked to just very briefly. He hopes to be on with us in a minute. Al said that he may jump into Joe's car. They expect this to be a very tough race, and they may have to have some relief. Now back to the race.
The yellow flag is out because there is oil on the track, and we'll return to more racing action in just a moment. Back at the Pocono International Raceway, there are the standings after 57 laps. Bobby Unser has now taken the lead with A.J. Foyt second, Mark Donohue third, Gary Bettenhausen fourth, and Roger McCluskey in fifth position. You'll notice they've been under the yellow for so long that they're jockeying back and forth going into that turn. That's probably to warm up their tires or perhaps testing to see where the oil might be. There's a lot of oil on this racetrack.
Well, as you know, Al Unser, winner of the 5 of the last 6 USAC races, is out of this race. Bobby Unser leading A.J. Foyt and Mark Donohue. And you know, Charlie, it's apparent that when Donohue goes to the pits and he comes back 6th or 7th or 8th, it doesn't take him many laps to get right back among the boys. So I think it's very safe to say that he's got the hottest car in the race.
That's right, Jimmy, and we'll be watching now to see if he can move back up to the front. However, that mistaken pit stop early is going to cost him, because that means he's going to just have to stop earlier all day long than the other boys.
And as you said earlier, too, this bunching up after yellow flag, as we get the green flag now, but bunching up after the yellow flag is not going to help Mr. Donohue either.
Right on Bobby Unser's tail. Vukovic is a lap behind. Donnie Allison has gone out of the race after 48 laps. And that makes a total of 6 cars out, 27 still running. He said this race is going to be very, very tough, but so far the attrition rate has not been exceptional. Usually by this time there would have been more than 6 cars out. Donnie Allison, Bob Harkey, Jim Hurtubise, Al Unser, Cale Yarborough, and George Snyder. Bill Vukovic has been running well all day. He got lapped, and he's chasing Bobby Unser right now. There's Kenny Zimmerman, car number 43, the Fiore Racing Team special, coming in, his hand in the air. Donohue is now past A.J. Foyt and will be moving up to challenge Bobby Unser. And so we've got a race for the lead once again. Bobby Unser in car number 2, the Olsenite Eagle. Mark Donohue in car number 66, the Sunoco Special McLaren. That time he did. Of course, it could be that he drove just a little deeper into that turn, too. Look, and close that gap.
Looks like, I was just going to say, it looks like he's really going to make a move on him pretty soon here.
Down that front straightaway where he has the best chance of passing. He's pulled right up behind Bobby Unser, but not quite enough room to make it through that first turn. I suppose you could say they're fighting for second, fighting to see who's going to be in second. They're also fighting for the lead in the race.
You know, it really appears as if Donohue's had trouble with that second turn. He's a little cautious there.
Here he goes now into turn 3, and he gets by Bobby Unser. Well, that was a bit unusual. They usually don't pass on that short straightaway. Well, he came off there and moved right up alongside and passed Bobby Unser very quickly. And so we have a new leader. Mark Donohue back in first place with Bobby Unser second. To more racing action in a moment. Back at the Pocono International Raceway, Mark Donohue had an average speed at the end of 70 laps of 135 plus miles an hour. He's coming in for his second pit stop. Remember, he made an early pit stop at the end of 32 laps. They have the tires ready for him, but so far they have not changed any. They come in, they take a quick look at the tires, and they can tell immediately whether they need to be changed. That's a power wrench that mechanic at the front of the car was holding, but he didn't have to use it. No tires changed, he's refueled, and that was a beautiful pit stop by Mark Donohue.
Charlie, I think you ought to explain the average speed as opposed to lap speed. The 135 doesn't seem to be very fast to maybe some of our viewers, but I think you ought to inform them about that.
Well, it's because we've had so much time under the yellow flag, and they're running very slowly under that yellow flag, down around 80 miles an hour, and that, of course, pulls the average speed down. Actually, they're running well up above 165 miles an hour most of the time, very close to 170 on occasion. Donohue is into that pit and out again. And we were commenting that the fact that he made that early pit stop is going to follow up his strategy all day. There was an 18-second pit stop for Mark Donohue. And that will put Bobby Unser back into first place, with Joe Leonard second and A.J. Foyt in third position. Of them will probably go past 80 laps before they make their second pit stop. They're the leaders after 80 laps. It's Bobby Unser first, Joe Leonard second, A.J. Foyt third, and Gary Bettenhausen in fourth position. 200-mile standing. Donohue, as a result of his pit stop, is brought back to fifth place. Lloyd Ruby in car number 12, the Utah Star Special, is 6th. Johnny Rutherford at number 18 is 7th. Peter Revson at number 86 is 8th. Gordon Johncock in number 7 is 9th. Mario Andretti in car number 5 is 10th. The rest of the standings have Bill Vukovich, Bentley Warren, Dick Simon, Art Pollard, John Mailer, Steve Krisloff, and Sammy Sessions, filling out the top 20 after 80 laps.
Here's Andretti in the pit stop.
We've had 3 more cars drop out of the race. We'll bring you up to date on those. Jim McElreath in car number 77 is out. Jim Malloy in number 92 is out. And Roger McCluskey in car number 6, the Strike Special, is out of the race. And Andretti, who has had really tough going this year is back into the event. He was running in 10th position before the pit stop, but that'll probably drop him farther back. He also has made early pit stops.
Last time Mario won was the South African Grand Prix, but Charlie said he's had some troubles this year. But he's the great favorite here from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. There's your leader, Bobby Unser.
We'll have quite a shake-up of the leaders when they start to make their second pit stops.
Donohue starting to move up again. As we said before, it doesn't take him long to catch up again.
There's Bobby Unser. Bobby Unser coming in for his second pit stop. That'll put Joe Leonard into the lead. Now remember, Donohue had an 18-second pit stop. We'll be able to compare it with Bobby. Very rapidly today.
That's a good pit stop for Bobby Unser.
That Old Tonight Eagle crew was really on the ball. Dan Gurney is the owner of this machine. Dan, of course, announced his retirement after last season, and he is now in the role of a car owner. Look at that pit stop, 14 seconds. So he gained 4 seconds on Donohue in the pits. Points up what Al Unser commented about when he said the pit crews are so very, very important. And there's the new leader, Joe Leonard. That, of course, will shake up the standings. Joe Leonard, the leader, and A.J. Foyt is now second. Jerry Bettenhausen third. Donohue dropped only to fourth as a result of that pit stop, and Bobby Unser is now fifth. They've been racing all day. Cars out of the race. Gordon Johncock in the Volstead Special number 7 is out after 101 laps. Peter Revson in the McLaren number 86 is out after 99 laps. Bentley Warren in car number 95, the Classic Wax Special, is out. And John Naylor in the Travelodge Florida International Speedway Special number 44 out after 92 laps.
Al Unser is out of this race. Al Unser, the point standings leader, way out of in front. They get 1,000 points for a 500-mile race, right, Charlie?
Right. First place gets 1,000, second 800, third 700, and so on down. So this is a very important race as far as the point standings are concerned. Meanwhile, that battle for second place between Bobby Unser and Joe Leonard continues.
We talked before about Joe Leonard being a courageous driver. As you see Mark Donohue, the leader, and it seems like Joe really shows his courage on the turns, Charlie. He really picks up a lot of ground there.
Yes, and you know, before the race, Joe wasn't too happy about driving this track. He said he was going to take it easy all day long, which just goes to prove that you can't always believe a race driver when he tells you what he's going to do in the race. When they drop the green flag, Joe is right there. There are still 19 cars running, with 14 out of the race. Another car out that we didn't mention was Denny Zimmerman at number 43. We saw him coming into the pits a while ago. They worked on the car and have now withdrawn the car after 88 laps. And there is Bobby Unser lapping a slower car that's Bill Pewterbaugh. So he puts a car between himself and Joe. Bobby seemed to pull away from Joe when he got by Bill Pewterbaugh. It's very important to be able to get by cars quickly. You can see the list of cars out of the race. Peter Revson, Roger McCluskey, John Mailer, Jim Malloy, Jim McElreath, Donnie Allison, Bob Harkey, Jim Hurtubise, Al Unser, Cale Yarborough, and George Snyder. Back at the Pocono International Speedway, it's A.J. Foyt in the lead in car number 9. Mark Donohue second, Bobby Unser third, Gary Bettenhausen fourth, and Joe Leonard is fifth. Mark Donohue has his third pit stop out of the way. A.J. Foyt has his coming up, but Foyt is hanging onto that lead.
A.J., one of the most colorful names in all of racing. Mr. Foyt is a lot of things, but one thing he is not is dull. And you can almost term him the Lee Trevino of auto racing. And like Trevino, he wins a lot. 5 times national champion, 3 times a winner at Indianapolis. A.J. Foyt in the lead, but here comes Donohue after him.
Foyt has driven a terrific race today, but Donohue is closing in. Foyt is a tough man to get by. He knows every trick in the business. And he has driven so many miles on so many different racetracks that he is very unlikely to make a mistake. Here's Donohue moving down to the inside. Let's see if he can get him. He's moving up alongside Foyt into that first turn. And he didn't make it. Donohue has been passing right down that straightaway because he has so much straightaway speed. His car is so clean. The engine runs so well. That's after 143 laps. It's still A.J. Foyt. Through the number 2 turn. Now we'll see if Donohue tries him again down the front straightaway. Got a pit stop coming very shortly. They're moving into traffic as well. And Foyt got behind that car for just an instant. Donohue to the inside. Let's see. He's up alongside now. If he can hold it, he's got it. Mark Donohue has taken over first place. Well, as Foyt came out of the number 3 turn, there was traffic in front. He made his move at the very last second, trying to hold off Donohue's charge for a while longer, but it was to no avail. Now Donohue is moving up to lap a slower car. We've had a couple more cars drop out of the race. There's the speed for Donohue on the last lap. 163.3 miles per hour. Bud Finkelstead in the Sugar Right Prune Special number 58 is out after 115 laps. Bill Simpson's having a lot of trouble, but he's still in the race. There is Foyt into the pits. This is Foyt's 3rd pit stop. Now the trick will be to get in and get out before he gets lapped. Should be able to do it, though, the way they've been refueling today. The fuel stops have been tremendous. You normally could figure about 20 to 25 seconds for pit stops. Today, they've been doing them in between 14 and 18 seconds. And there's another real good stop for Foyt. Now, he has one more mandatory pit stop left, as do all the other leaders. An 18-second pit stop for A.J. Foyt. And this will drop him back in the standings, however, dropping back behind Joe Leonard. And we'll be back to more racing action in just a moment. Rutherford and Ruby making their appearance in the top 10. But Mark Donohue continues to show the way here. All of the leaders have their 4th mandatory pit stops yet to make. And they'll probably be coming sometime in the next 8 or 10 laps. Donohue, meanwhile, has a rather sizable lead on Bobby Unser. The first 4 cars are on the leading lap. That's down through Foyt. Gary Bettenhausen is a lap behind. So now we get into the lonesome hours of the race. The drivers have been competing all day long, and now they know that they're 3/4 of the way done, but there is still a lot of racing yet to go. Bobby Unser
so much has been said about the reflexes of a race car driver, but concentration, I guess, has to be a very big facet here, because to be able to drive for this many hours and concentrate on what you're doing must be very, very difficult.
It is, Jimmy. I think it's the big thing. The yellow flag is out because of some oil, and we may get some pit stop activity here. Although it's a little early, they probably will want to take advantage of this yellow light time. The yellow flag out, Art Pollard is out on the track pushing his car. His car just quit running. There's a look at the cars out of the race. Actually, it's been very surprising. People were predicting that they might have a lot of suspension trouble because of the roughness of the racetrack, but so far, no one has gone out for that reason. Here's Donohue, the leader, coming in for his last pit stop.
All right, let's watch his crew now. His last pit stop. He's had some good ones. 18 seconds was his best time.
Notice that they've had those tires out there each and every time he's been in the pits. But apparently he's getting no tire wear, and they have not even made any indication they were going to change tires. Roger Penske, who's been out signaling Donohue, he was standing there watching, and he could not resist the temptation to get there and help push out the car. 22-second pit stop for Mark Donohue. While that is a long pit stop, it will not hurt him too much since the cars are running under the yellow. He'll be allowed to close up. There's A.J. Foyt in for his fourth pit stop.
This is a great one. He had a tire change as well here.
17 seconds with a tire change. You get that kind of service in your friendly service station, Jim. Here's Bobby Unser in. They're all coming in, taking advantage of this yellow light time.
Well, Bobby trying to uphold the Unser name because Brother Al was out of this race after 32 laps, leaking oil and disappointment. Here's a very good pit stop for Bobby Unser. He's had a couple. And Mario Andretti and the STP team working on him. There's Unser getting out of the pits. He's had good pit stops today, Charlie. Look at this, 11 seconds for Unser. That's 11 seconds he picked up right there, but of course you said they were under the yellow flag.
They've been signaling for Joe Leonard to come in, and so far he has not.
Joe doesn't like to come here. Joe doesn't like to come in. There's Andretti getting out of the pits, and when he does come in, he wants to stay there for 4 or 5 seconds and get out. We had trouble earlier in the race with him. His first pit stop. Here he is now. Let's watch it.
No tire change, just refueling for Joe Leonard. Look at that pit stop. 9 seconds for Joe Leonard. The mandatory pit stops are out of the way, and we'll return to racing action in just a moment. Back at the Pocono International Raceway, the mandatory pit stops are over. Now it's a race to the finish with only 40 laps left, and Mark Donohue has the lead with Bobby Unser second. A.J. Foyt is third, followed in the standings by Joe Leonard. They're all on the same lap. Gary Bettenhausen, Mario Andretti, Bill Vukovic, Johnny Rutherford, Lloyd Ruby, and Sammy Sessions fill out the top 10. The average speed is 141.129 miles per hour. And that obviously is a record, this being the inaugural race. It's somewhat off the pace of Indianapolis. As a matter of fact, about 16 miles an hour off the pace of Indianapolis, but that's due to the fact that the yellow lights have been run here so much slower than at Indianapolis.
All right, Leonard now making a move on A.J. Foyt as they battle for the number 2 position in this race. Leonard, number 50 in the yellow car, and of course, Super Texan in the red car, and there they are, 2 Grizzly veterans going at him. Here's Leonard trying to get him on the inside. Well, watch Foyt. As Charlie told you earlier, he's a tough man to pass. He doesn't pass him here. But now we're coming up to the strong part of Mr. Leonard's game, the turns. And he's courageous there. And here he goes again. Did he get him on? He did. He got him. Leonard passed Foyt. So now Joe Leonard is in second place in this race, Charlie.
He got off that first turn much better than Foyt, and that gave him a little boost going down that back straightaway and passed him before he got to turn 2. Bobby Bobby Unser has slowed down. That's why this battle suddenly became not the battle for third, but the battle for second. Bobby Unser's dropped back. And Joe Leonard is now second. With Mark Donohue first, A.J. Foyt third. And I don't know what kind of trouble Bobby Unser's having. His engine doesn't seem to be running correctly. What a tough break for Bobby. He's been right in the thick of things, contesting with Mark Donohue all day long, running just 3 or 4 seconds off the pace most of the time. And it has not been a good day for the Unser brothers.
Now went out after 32 laps, and here is brother Bobby Unser coming in. We don't know what this problem is, but he's having problems. Here's another problem.
Dick Simon is down in the infield. That's car number 10. He got out of that car very quickly, and they sprayed it with fire extinguishing material. He could have had a little fire, and he pulled off that track very quickly and got out. They're helping Simon into the ambulance. He obviously is not seriously injured, but he may have been burned a little. The yellow flag out. And Joe seems to be widening the gap on Mark Donohue. This is almost unbelievable, Jimmy. Donohue has had such a tremendous advantage all day long, and now we get down into the last 10 laps, and Joe Leonard passes and pulls away. But now Donohue closes it up once again. 8 laps to go.
Well, we'll have a good chance now to see what Mr. Donohue is made out of after losing the lead. Let's see if he can come back.
Watching that second turn, that's where Donohue had a little trouble. He slipped just a little bit. And that slight slip gave Leonard the lead. Last time by, Leonard's crew was really waving him on. Leonard has moved out. Neither one of them are running real strong through that turn. Now Donohue closing up through turn 3.
He's coming after him now, Charlie.
Now he's moving up alongside. A little straightaway speed on the part of Donohue's car. And Donohue has got him. Donohue back in the lead. This is an unbelievable race.
Well, now we know what he's made out of. He just came right back and grabbed the lead.
And look at him move away down that back stretch. Seems to close up a little bit in turn 2. We're back at the Pocono International Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, where we have had just a sensational inaugural 500. Mark Donohue, now on his 198th lap. He'll get the white flag as he comes down to complete 199 laps, indicating that he has 1 lap to go. We've had several lead changes and one coming very unexpectedly on the 191st lap. Mark Donohue of Natick, Pennsylvania, driving for Roger Penske, another Pennsylvanian. Moving up behind a slower car, drives right by him. And there's the white flag. 1 lap to go. Mark Donohue, Joe Leonard, and A.J. Foyt are all on the same lap with 1 lap to go. And only Joe Leonard has a chance to catch Donohue, but not much of a chance now unless Donohue makes some sort of a mistake. There you can see Leonard, 400 or 500 feet behind, just a little under 2 seconds behind. Imagine Donohue will be very careful going through that turn 2. He makes it through. Heading for turn 3. Mark Donohue of Media, Pennsylvania, in car number 66, the Sunoco Special. Coming through turn 3, now heading for the checkered flag. And the winner of the inaugural Schaefer 500 at Pocono is Mark Donohue, with Joe Leonard second. All cars cars will get the checkered flag, and the race will be over after they have all received that checkered flag.
Well, he passed me all right. There was a lot of oil dropped in number 2, and he approached to number 2, and I had been having trouble there all day, and so I was very cautious going in, and I got in so slow that I lost the blower pressure on the blower, and then Joe got the, was going a lot better through there, so I watched him for a couple times.